Okay, welcome to the Science of Football brought to you by Fiesta Charities. This is our STEM program, and we want to welcome you from wherever you are listening to us. The purpose of this panel is to illustrate the connection between STEM and football. And we have three very exciting panelists, which I will go around and introduce in just a moment. My name is Ricardo Valerdi, and I'm an engineering professor at the University of Arizona and a founder of Science of Sport. So let's go in clockwise fashion here. And Charlie, if you could please say hello and tell us where you are calling in from.
Hi, my name is Charlie Adkins, and I'm calling in from the Arizona Cardinals training facility, where I am the manager of football analytics and research here.
Abbey.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. I'm Abbey Meitin. I am calling in from my home in Scottsdale, Arizona. I am the director of client strategy for a company called SSB and also a professor of practice at Arizona State's W.P. Carey School of Business.
Kobe.
How you doing, guys? I'm Koble Stuckwisch, sophomore on ASU's football team, and I'm also an aerospace engineer.
Wonderful. So you see, we're covering a lot of angles here with some college sports, some pro sports, and some business of sports. So what I'd like to do is just go around the horn again in the same order. And if you could give us a little bit of background on what kind of college education you went through that led you to your job. So tell us where you went to school and what you majored in so that our listeners can better understand the connection of how they would get a job like yours.
Awesome. I am originally from Southeast Texas. I went to the University of Texas and got my bachelor's and master's in accounting.
Excellent.
Hi, I grew up in Augusta, Georgia. So that was my original tie to sports with the Masters golf tournament coming there every year. I went to the University of Georgia for my undergrad. I studied communications at UGA and then went on to get my master's in business from Arizona State just a few years ago.
And then I grew up in Gilbert, Arizona, so like 20 minutes away from Tempe, where ASU is located at. And I'm a sophomore right now in my aerospace degree, so soon to get it.
Awesome. We're going to talk a lot more about aerospace engineering, Kobe, so be ready. So, sure. Charlie, tell us a little bit more about what you do in your job, and if you could highlight a few ways that you use math, because you mentioned accounting, so there's a lot of numbers in that. But tell us a little bit more about how you use math in your job.
Yes, there are a few ways that I use math in my job, but really all of the football-related numbers, what did a player do on the field, they come through our department, as well as how much do players make in dollars and how do you track that against the salary cap. So really, we work with numbers all day long, adding, subtracting, multiplying, see how things can really change over time. And then the other thing is we work closely with our coaches to see what the other team is likely to do and what we're likely to do to the other team. So you're constantly using math to see what is the most opportune time to do a certain thing in a game that helps you with play calling and ultimately what you see on the field on Sundays.
Wonderful. So you're dealing with player performance, and Abbey, of course, there's a different side of sports, right? That doesn't just focus on what's going on with the team. So tell us a little bit about what goes on elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. So I am on the business side of the sports organizations, working on more of the sales and marketing, ensuring that business operations are getting the funding and resources that they need, but also ensuring that a sports team's customers are being taken care of and the fans are full every Sunday or whatever day the games are played. In terms of using math in my role, we are developing software that these teams are using and really working with the numbers as far as the customers' buying patterns and how much money they're spending with the team to help make sure that people that are showing loyalty to the team are being taken care of in the right fashion.
So what you're saying is every time I use my credit card at the stadium, you know about it?
We potentially do know about it. Sometimes we may know it is actually you, Ricardo. Sometimes we may just know that there was a transaction for $20. But the goal in a lot of these cases is to connect people's spend with their personal information so that we can build out a very robust customer profile, and from that be able to serve you better by understanding, the types of things that you like to purchase.
Well, I'll tell you, it's cotton candy, popcorn, and hot dogs. That's my customer profile. So awesome. Kobe, tell us a little bit about a class that you've taken at Arizona State as part of your aerospace engineering degree, and if you could explain what kind of math or science is needed in that class.
For sure. So honestly, one of my classes that I took this past year was one of my most fun experiences at ASU. We kind of built a solar car from scratch, and so doing that, math is fundamental to build every single part of it, whether it's to measuring the base of the car, measuring how many solar panels to put on. It's all math. That's weird. It's weird to think because it's actually hands-on, but math is crucial to many different things in today's world, and I think that's what that class taught me. And so it just made me realize how useful math is and how fundamental it is to the different stuff that we do in our everyday lives.
That's neat. And we have a lot of sun in Arizona, so that's a good project.
It'll be running for a while.
Yeah. So Charlie, let's talk about, actually, I want to ask all of you about the Super Bowl because I'm sure you watched it. But, when people like you watch the Super Bowl, you probably see things that we don't see as normal fans. So I'm curious, from your lens, from your perspective, whether you're a player, an analyst, what did you see last Sunday in the whole spectacle of things? And share with us your insight. Charlie, go ahead.
I think in a lot of ways you get to appreciate such incredible athletes and the things that they're able to do on the field. An incredible performance is always interesting to watch. But one thing that, when I watch a game, I'm looking more through the lens of how it impacts our team. And the Rams, we played 3 times this year. So I know a lot about the Rams and what they like to do. So as the game is going on, I can say, oh, I think this is coming next. And a lot of that is very mathematically based, where you understand based on past performance, this is what they're likely to do in the future. And I think that's kind of the lens that I look through. And I hadn't studied the Bengals as much this year since we did not play them, but being able to see how the mismatches between the two teams, you're constantly watching for those things, in my opinion.
Nice. Abby, what did you see?
Yeah, so I see it from a very different lens than Charlie. I'm paying attention very little to what's happening on the field, but really looking at the fan engagement components and the brands that are spending money on ads or in in-game features and things like that, trying to get the attention of Super Bowl watchers and Super Bowl fans. So it's just very interesting to me how the brand partnerships align to either regional focus or a national focus or a shift in technology. I think this year crypto was a big spender in ads and other components of the game. So it's really interesting to watch and see how the national advertising and what you can expect to see potentially in trends over the next year from that.
Oh, that's neat. Colby, what did you see?
As an offensive lineman, I was just watching both of the offensive lines all night. I feel like the interesting thing was to see how the Bengals blocked Aaron Donald, who arguably should have gotten the MVP, but that's just my opinion. Um, and then, it was just interesting to see kind of the highs and the lows of how the game went and how the teams both reacted in adversity. I think that was the most interesting thing. And yeah,
I was also very happy to see Matt Stafford win. He was the quarterback at UGA when I was a student there. I'll date myself a little bit, but have followed his career a lot through the NFL.
That's neat. So I'm going to give Charlie a little bit of a break off the hot seat. I'm going to start with Abby on this next series of questions. So Abby, you're on the hot seat now. So let's talk about your time as a student, if you can think back, however far back, middle school, elementary school, or high school. Tell me about maybe what was your favorite class back then, or did you have like a favorite teacher who inspired you to pursue STEM, which eventually led you to the job that you have now?
Yeah, so I definitely excelled in math and science in grade, throughout school. And some of my favorite classes were in those subject areas. I would say one of my most favorite teachers was a man named Mr. Campbell, who was my biology teacher. And I think just really learning about all of the different species and doing some of the, work to dissect them and all the cool things that you learn through those classes. But overall, Mr. Campbell was just very engaging, and you could tell he really cared about his students. So I actually still keep in touch with him today. So he was a big proponent of me going into college. I was actually a biological sciences major for a while. Then I realized I did have a bit of a aversion to blood and kind of got a little freaked out by going into the medical profession. And I knew sports had always played a big role in my life. So I looked for opportunities to shift my focus into ways that I could grow a career doing something that I loved, but also applying some of my more STEM background and technical skills. So in my role today, we're using computer programming, and many of you have probably not heard of SQL or SQL yet in your lives, but it's a computer program where you get to do fun things on the computer and automate a lot of different processes. And I think a lot of my role is really working with people far more technical than me and engineers, and helping translate what they do to more business users. So in many cases, I'm the go-between between very technical people and less technical people. So being able to translate sometimes is also a good skill to have.
Love it. Kobe, similar question. Think back to when you were a student in middle school or around that time. What motivated you? What do you remember in terms of your favorite things?
I think a big thing when I was like more like 10, 11, 12, I really didn't like math that much. And I feel like what kind of motivated me to go into the STEM field was more recent. But definitely like kind of what Abby was saying, like some teachers along the way like help you and truly care about you as a student. They kind of pour into you more so like if you like the teacher, you're gonna love their class. You know what I mean? And my middle school biology teacher and my middle school physics teacher really helped me, and they really helped me realize that this is what I actually want to do with my career, which is like go into like a physics type of background. And engineering has a lot of physics in it. And so I feel like that was a crucial part, was more so like the teachers kind of pointing me in the right direction and actually like caring about me to a point where they realize my potential and how much that I could actually achieve. And that was a big part for me.
Neat. Charlie, how about you?
I think my love of numbers and math started very early on. I used to flip the baseball card and see what the batting average was, or see how many home runs a guy hit, and things like that. Really kind of pushed me early on. I remember, very early in elementary school when you're doing Mad Minutes. I loved doing those because it was, how quickly can I figure out this math problem? And there was a competitive piece of it too, which, as somebody who grew up loving sports, that competitive aspect is always very important. But really, once I got to middle school, I loved algebra. So I think it just really kind of continued on for me. I can't pinpoint, one exact thing, but the love of numbers, just carried through, and the ability to do different things with numbers really helped me. And one thing, I'd kind of like to piggyback on what Abbey said, is the ability to translate information is critical, because I spend a lot of my time with our general manager or our head coach or other coaches explaining some of what we have on the data side, to say, hey, this is what this shows. And oftentimes some of our players will come over and say, hey, what does this mean? And so being able to translate that information and communicate things that you can find through math and science can really help you in the long run, and ultimately make you more well-rounded and valuable to other people in your career.
Love it. Abbey, you mentioned computers, and I want you to elaborate on that, because I think it would be helpful for the students to know what can they start doing at their age to learn more about computers that would then set them up to do all the fancy things that you were talking about, data and databases and programming. So what kinds of things got you started, and what kinds of things can they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think students today are, really digital first, right? So you guys already have an advantage over some of us probably, but I think that if you're interested in learning how things work, right, that's one of the curiosity, I would say, is like a trait working in software or in computers. That would be one of the first things I would say try and tap into, right? If you're not, maybe you really like playing with Legos or some other toy that you have where you're building things today and it's more hardware based. Building software is really similar concept, right? It's just you're working within your computer, right? And software as a service specifically is a really big industry. So looking at the different websites that you go to and just really thinking about what it takes to make that website operate, and the data or information that you're seeing on the screen, right? They are getting that information from places. So integrations or how they're connecting things are a big part of computer and software design, right? So I would just say probably the trait, if you're really curious about how things are made, kind of tapping into that and signing up for various courses online, right? I think there's a lot of different things nowadays that you can probably find through your library resources or other teacher resources in terms of games you can play, or different certifications you could even probably start to go after as you get later on into middle school and into high school.
Got it. Love it. Kobe, let's shift gears a little bit to what you're studying, aerospace engineering. Can you tell us what that is? Well, it sounds fancy. So what is that about?
So what it is, it's the the science and how science and the functionality of airplanes and how they respond in our atmosphere, and also spacecrafts and how they respond in space. And so aerospace engineering is more so finding how the planes operate in both our atmosphere and space, and kind of um, leading you towards the end goal, which is to build spacecrafts based on different functionalities, both in our atmosphere and in space.
So you're going to send somebody to Mars, or you're going to go to Mars, or how's
No,
that going?
I'm too tall. I don't meet the height requirement.
I see. Yeah. So you're tall, and because you need to be an offensive lineman, big,
Yeah,
big body, right? Not
Yeah.
so good for space travel.
yeah.
That's cool. Charlie, let me ask you a little bit more about your job, and how students can maybe learn a little more about football analytics. Are there any websites or places where they can go learn a little bit more about football analytics?
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of different places that have good information. It really just depends on what you want to look for. But I think if you're watching TV or you're in the stadium and you hear the announcer talk about next gen stats, that's a lot of the work that we get to work with. So there is a next gen stats website that would be helpful. Football Outsiders is another good resource where you can learn more advanced tendencies about the game. Pro Football Focus has some good information. And then ESPN or Football Reference always has really good information where you can get college and pro stats and really learn more about the game.
And these are all free websites, or do you have to pay?
They're all free. There are a couple that have the ability where you'd have to pay, but everything has at least something for free on it.
Nice. Okay. There's a lot of those. I love it. Abby, I want to, again, relate it to students, and I'm sure you've heard this, or maybe you also had this question. I know I did when I was a student. You're learning something. It sort of sounds a little bit abstract and a little bit maybe impractical. And you kind of think to yourself, when will I ever need to use this? Why do I need to learn this? Whatever this is, you can maybe think of an example. So how do you respond to that, to a student, now that you are a professional and using a lot of these tools that you learned in school in the real world? So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, learning is important. You never necessarily know how something is going to apply, and in different grades, or as you move along, you may show different interests in different subjects. But having a good attitude and being willing to learn a topic, right, for school, really just shows, I would say character as well, but there's a opportunity to apply different things at different stages in your life. Math and science in particular, right? I would say, day to day, I don't necessarily use a lot of science in my career, but I do pay attention to things and remember the fundamentals of proper research and, hypothesis testing and various components that you're hopeful that others that did show an interest in that have gone on and developed and perfected those skills in their career. I would say math, you use it all the time. In some ways, geometry and some of these more advanced math courses may be abstract to you, but they do come back around in various ways. Algebra, right? We use a lot of what's called regression modeling in my career, right? And I would say that's very mathematically based, and I would not have thought in 9th or 10th grade, whenever it was, learning about the slope of a line. I would ever really use that in my career, but turns out that I do, right? So I think more than anything, though, having an openness to learning, really, regardless of the topic, and especially if it's, for your education and to build skills to propel you to the next stage in life. Some subjects you're going to like more than others, but just remembering that is good to show, being well balanced is probably very key, and being open to something that may be a little more abstract at first, like Kobe. He didn't really like it at first, and now he's kind of figured out he can go on and do great things with those skills.
Yeah. So Kobe, to build on that a little bit, you're a student athlete, meaning that you're balancing a full academic load of pretty difficult classes, and then you're also training, playing during the season, training in the off season, hitting the gym, going to meetings with your offensive line and coaches. How do you balance all of that? How do you stay organized and fulfill these commitments?
The big thing is time management, and that's pretty straightforward. But a lot of people like to push things off to the last second, and I feel like if you're a student athlete, you can't really do that. You can't wait till the day before or even the night of an assignment. You can't kind of push it off, because you know that you have priorities such as football, time, lifting, everything like that. And I think the biggest thing for me, the way I manage it, is as soon as I either get an assignment, a meeting, different stuff like that, like I try to do it right away, like as fast as I can, so that I can make more time to prioritize football, other things ahead of the different studies. And so I think that's the most crucial thing, is time management and prioritizing time in school ahead of everything else, so that you can finish the assignment right away and be able to focus on football in season, practice, all the different things that go into making a successful season as a college football player.
Love it. So Kobe, you're going to be very interested in the answer to the next question. Okay, so listen closely, because I think this applies to you. So Charlie, I'm going to go to you, and I know that as a professional football organization, you're looking at how to reload your roster, right? And sometimes it might be by trading with a different team. Other times it might be from choosing somebody in the NFL draft, from somebody who's coming out of college. So you're involved in that process. Tell us a little bit about it. Teach us what you do to evaluate players.
Yeah, so you must have known that I just came out of draft meetings, to join this call, and we'll be going right back after this phone call. But really, our college draft process, you're looking at the height of a player, the weight, their speed. Obviously, everything's different per position, but you want to see how productive they are. So for Kobe, how many games does he play? How many games does he start? What does his injury history look like? How productive is he whenever he's in the game? Yeah, those are really the things that are important for us. And really, you want to look at guys who have good movement profiles that project well to the next level, that you say, hey, what they did in college, we believe they can do in the NFL. And I think that those are kind of the big things. But one thing that I think gets overlooked is the person. Who is this individual And can we trust this person? Do they love the sport of football? And what are their actions like? So really everything ties back to the person that you are, because if you're not a good person off the field, oftentimes we don't want you on the field, for us personally, because we believe that having good players in our locker room really does matter, and that rubs off on other people. So the actions that you take as an individual all throughout your life, those add up, and people are watching. And I think that is something kind of to always keep in the back of your mind.
Well, if you're looking for an offensive lineman who knows STEM, we know some people down at ASU. So
I like this connection.
Yeah, there we go. Abbey, some of the things that Charlie said about evaluating, a player probably apply to business, right? To evaluating maybe an applicant to a job. So can you relate maybe some of the things that Charlie said to the business world?
Yeah, I'll maybe take a slightly different approach, but one of the main areas that we're focused on is really trying to maximize customer lifetime value, right? So when I say customer lifetime value, it's really the amount of money that a person is going to spend with your organization over time, right? So I think that goes back to some of the individual components of productivity that Charlie was talking about for evaluating players. When you're evaluating, your best customers, you're looking at how long they've been a customer, how much are they spending with you today, how much could they be spending with you that they're not, how much do they spend in other categories that potentially compete with your organization, right? And then you're looking at also the risk associated with the customers, right? So calculating risk, I think, is an area that math applies. But in the sports world, utilization of the tickets that you buy, right? So season ticket holders, they've purchased, 7, 10, 25 if it's baseball, or potentially even more in pro baseball. But that utilization rate is a big metric that we're paying attention to help make sure that people are getting the value out of the purchase. So when you're looking at specific customers, there's kind of these key productivity measures as well. When you're looking at hiring, obviously in your organization, you have to have the minimum criteria for the skills that you need for that job. But I would echo what Charlie's saying. Many times, organizations and hiring managers are looking at the intangibles as well, right? And the character, the work ethic, the loyalty component. How long do you stay with jobs? How have you showed diversity in the type of jobs that you have held, from high school through graduation, of college potentially, and internships. So it's just say, as you guys start to prepare and getting out into the real world, don't take for granted the little experiences that you can have. Right. I was the baseball statistician at my high school. Right. So I traveled with the team and kept the stats. And little did I know that I would go on and have a career in something like this. But those little things that you get yourself involved with, just take the time to get involved first and foremost. But then, start to figure out what you actually enjoy, and then you'll be surprised what jobs are out there. I grew up, like I said, in Augusta, Georgia. If you looked at my friends' parents, many were doctors or lawyers or nurses, small business owners, and you may start to feel, guided into a direction just because of everyone else has done it. But I would say in general, there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of different career paths that you may not be considering. So take advantage of the resources that you have available to you and ask the questions of whoever those people are at that time. And you'd be surprised how many people are willing to offer their time to help people that are just interested in learning.
Love it. Kobe, I'm going to shift a little bit more to sort of personal questions. Two-parter. First, what is your favorite kind of food? And do you have a pet?
Ooh, that's tough. I say, like, are you saying like specific like type of food or like general like grilled chicken has to be one of the best foods on planet Earth. Chicken and rice, that's hands down best food. Yeah, I have 2 dogs. One is a we call him Taz. He's a Yorkshire Terrier, and another is a Australian cattle dog, Belle. So yeah,
I bet they have a lot of energy.
yeah, especially little Taz. He's about that big. Fit him in the palm of my hand, but yeah, he's a great dog.
Taz, as in Tasmanian devil?
Yes.
Probably? Yeah,
yes.
All right. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Charlie, food, pets.
Now, first, you can't ask Colby. I've never met an offensive lineman who doesn't like food. Like, you know that there are just so many options that it's going to take a second to really think through it. I know all our guys are like that. I love chocolate chip cookies. I know that's probably not the right food group that you're looking for, but those are my absolute favorite. But then as a good Texan, I'm very high on barbecue and Tex-Mex. So like if you put brisket and queso together, which I actually did last night for dinner, spectacular.
Love it. And what about pets?
No pets currently. Have family pets, but not right now for me here in Arizona.
All right. Abby, how about you?
So Charlie mentioned mine just there. Pretty much the only food that I would actually like crave is probably queso. So Torchy's tacos, if you're familiar with that, Charlie, that was. They're based in Texas. It started in Austin, I think, but they're actually opening Arizona locations this year. So
I didn't know that. That's good for me.
Yeah, it is very good. Yeah. So I think it's going to be off of the 51 and the like Camelback 20th region. So very excited about Torchy's tacos coming to Arizona. And then pets, I do have a 6-year-old mutt named Mowgli. He is a cattle dog mix. He's locked upstairs right now because I cannot trust him to not bark during this call. So
love it. All right, so let's land this plane. We're going to do one more round of questions, and I think this one probably requires a little bit more reflection and thought. But sort of as a parting message, what advice do you have for students to be successful in school? What would you sort of leave them with? What nuggets? So, Kobe, you're the leadoff hitter here.
I think I touched on it before, is time management, especially as you get to high school, college, different stuff like that. But I feel like to be successful in school, you just have to kind of put yourself out there and experience new things. I think that's the biggest thing, because you might come across something that you like. And that's time management and kind of putting yourself out there. Those are the 2 biggest things for me, because I felt when I put myself out there and kind of tried new things, such as harder math classes, different stuff like that, I ended up liking it, and I ended up finding my niche, which is aerospace engineering, which is what I'm majoring in right now. So I feel that's the biggest thing for me, was just try new things, time management, and prioritize yourself also. Prioritize what you feel is best. Prioritize everything in your life, because that's what humans are. We're all personable, you know. So at the end of the day, those are the three biggest things.
Love it. Love it, Charlie.
I would say my things are show up, be who you are on a daily basis, and treat others the right way. And then overall, be disciplined in your approach. And when I say disciplined, I mean be where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it. And then I think Koble touched on the be open to new experiences. Abbey mentioned get involved, and then communicate with other people. I think you'll never know what all's out there in the world without talking to others and seeing that there's so many big things that you can do in the world. And once you can see it and visualize it, you can eventually become that.
I love it. Abbey, bring us home.
Yeah. Charlie, I've talked about it before. Charlie just referenced it, but I would say for me, especially in middle school and high school and probably even elementary school, it's hard to remember back to nowadays, but getting involved, I think, was the biggest thing for me. The extracurricular activities and almost creating that accountability structure for me was very important. I didn't necessarily have the most stable household, so it was nice to have, that structure outside of that for me personally. So getting involved in your school or activities and the things that you have at your disposal, I think create that accountability structure and also place mentors into your life, whether that's a coach or a teacher or just some sort of older teammate or whatever the case may be, was one of my, I would say what helped me be successful in school. And then leaning into, the things that you do enjoy and seeking out more opportunities like those. So you can't wait for things to necessarily come to you, but being proactive and seeking out opportunities, whether that's, even just a part-time job while you're in school, these types of things will start to open up other opportunities for you.
Love it. Well, that's really insightful. I learned a ton in this panel. Thank you, Charlie, Abbey, Koble. This was awesome. It's great to get to know you a little bit better, but also to appreciate the connection between football and STEM. I loved it. So I really want to thank you. And I want to thank again the Fiesta Bowl Charities for helping to provide the funding for this program. And I want to thank the students and teachers who are part of this program. I hope you found this to be insightful as well. So once again, really appreciate it. And I salute you. 3, thank you so much for all you do and for being part of this program.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys.
Thank you.